Precise aim activated. Activated. Nice shot.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at a new ship which I think is going to be the Blitz Pass ship coming out. It is an American destroyer at tier 8, premium obviously, and it is DD 422, the USS Mayo. This was a Benson class destroyer. She was built I think in the late 30s, and after doing a bit of convoy duty and general assistance in the Mediterranean and Atlantic theaters, she was part of the American landings near Anzio as part of Operation Shingle. At the time, the Allies had invaded Italy, and the Germans were actually defending the lines there. And everyone was sort of stuck trying to push north, but the Germans were holding the lines. So the Americans decided to make another landing behind enemy lines, disrupt their communications and supply, and open up the road to Rome. Unfortunately, the whole thing was rather poorly planned and well understaffed. So they did land with some naval gunfire support, mainly from the destroyers and from the Brooklyn. And they had somewhat cleared out the mines and were able to surprise the defenders pretty well and managed to get everything on land without too much hassle. But by the time the Germans were counterattacking, they did manage to land a couple of hits. It isn't entirely certain if the Mayo was hit by a mine. Some sources say she ran into a mine. Some say she was actually hit by a guided bomb from a German plane. But she did take a massive hit. The ship almost got cut in two, and that kicked her out of the operation, and she had to return to Naples for some quick repairs and then for a couple of months back to the US. So she did not participate in any further action after that, and by the time she was repaired, the operation in Italy was pretty much over. The Germans had been defeated, and the Americans were on the march again. In the end, after the war, USS Mayo was retired in 1946 and then eventually scrapped in the 70s after being, well, sitting around off the books for quite a while. In the game, we are obviously, well, curious what the ship can do. So we have a few Benson-class destroyers. Now we have got the Benson and the Black Benson over here, and now the Mayo. So let's compare her quickly and see what's different between this and the actual Benson. Tier 8 is always a very interesting tier because Tier 8 is sort of where a lot of players are comfortable. And you find that even players who have unlocked everything up to tier 10, well, often you find them back in tier 8, just, having fun doing things. So tier 8 can be a little bit competitive, and the American destroyer line has been pretty much unchanged since the game was released. They used to be, well, they had very good smoke screens, and you used to not have an awful lot of countermeasures to smoke screens. Back when the game was released, sonar wasn't a thing, and neither was radar. Sonar was introduced with the German ship lines, and that was capable, obviously, of countering smokes at close range. Radar came a lot later. I'm not actually sure at which point. I think it was the American light cruiser lines, when starting at the USS Dallas, and then Brooklyn, Cleveland, and Seattle and Worcester. And I think that brought the radars in. I might be wrong here, but today we have a fair few things that have radar. Other destroyers have radar. Destroyers have sonar. So the overall usefulness of the smokescreen gimmick is somewhat diminished. The American destroyer line, I feel, has been power crept quite a bit. They used to be the sort of all-rounder counterpart to the Japanese more torpedo-focused destroyer line when the game was released. They obviously were the better gunboats because there was nothing else. But today there are many other destroyer lines out there that are better gunboats than the American destroyers. They have never been the best torpedo boats in the game. And there are destroyers who have better AA. And like I said, the smoke screens aren't as useful anymore as they used to be. So releasing a new Benson at this stage might be an interesting challenge. So after lots of talk, let's compare the two. The first thing we notice is that the Mayo loses the defensive AA. And let's be honest, while this is nice, it is not going to stop a carrier. But that's also not what it's meant to do. It was more meant as a sort of support role thing, such that if you are sailing with friendly ships, you could give some AA defense to them. It's not been massively useful, but it's been there. So we lose that. And we lose a charge of the engine accelerator, but in return we get a precise aiming, which is a very curious choice for a destroyer. These American 5-inchers are very floaty somewhat. It can be a little hard to actually hit things with them. So, well, we'll see how much impact that actually has. In terms of stats, inexplicably she loses some hit points. That must be the damage from the mine or from the German bomb. She is marginally faster, marginally less maneuverable, but all in all, it's very much all in the same ballpark. The guns have a marginally better base range. Otherwise, they are exactly the same guns. And the torpedoes have a slightly better range, but pay for it with a 5-second or almost 5-second longer reload. The AA is worse than on the Benson, but then again, you really didn't necessarily. You weren't AA destroyers. That would be the IKEA line, the Swedish. But you'd still have a decent amount of AA. Not that you could defeat a carrier strike by yourself, but you could do you could help other ships a little bit with it. That basically has been removed, not just because of the downgrading of the actual AA alpha values, but also because the actual defensive AA skill is gone, and the concealment is ever so slightly worse than on the Benson. So it's basically just a remix of the Benson. The stats for all intents and purposes are about the same. Yes, you've got a bit better range on the torpedoes and on the guns, which is nice, but does that compensate? Does that compensate for things? Well, we're going to be finding out, but first we'll be looking at the setup. You get actually relatively interesting elite bonuses, and I'm not sure if they're the same on the Benson, because I have not looked at the Benson since forever. But you have the choice between more speed and acceleration, or a better main battery range. There's both interesting choices. Main battery range will actually be really nice, but having more speed, especially on something that is reasonably pedestrian, and given that she has lost one of the engine boosts, felt like the better choice here. Let's have a quick look at the Benson actually, and see what the... Yeah, it's the exact same thing. So, okay, it's the same elite bonus as you get on the Benson. The historical camouflage gives you the 4% range if you didn't take it from the elite bonus, additional torpedo range, max traverse, and surface detection. You can also, for some reason, make it look like a fire elemental or something out of a volcano. It has the exact same stats, so it's purely decorative. Personally, not a fan, but you do you. Taste is up to the individual. So we are definitely going to be sailing with the historical camo. And no really surprises in the equipment either. I mean, what are you going to do? You can either go for main battery reload. You have 5 guns. They are single guns. Or you can go for main battery traverse. If you need to swing the rear guns around a little bit faster, you get, I think, 2 forward and 3 aft. I'm personally preferring the main battery mod 1 here over the slide reload, but both are decent choices. Propulsion in 2 is no big surprise here, and obviously concealment in 3. So there's not an awful lot that we need to discuss when it comes to equipment, even less so than usual. And that brings us down to the commander. Now, I am currently having William Sims here because, well, he is a legendary destroyer commander, but I've done the usual thing and played the first game with an 8-point captain. And with basically more or less the same setup, except for when it comes to the legendary skills, but we'll talk about that in a second. In terms of destroyer skills, I've my default choice sort of is the underwater protection expert because it kind of makes sense for most ships. But especially when it comes to destroyers, I tend to these days switch to the emergency response. Because honestly, if you get torpedoed in a destroyer, you're screwed anyway. And so the 3% damage reduction isn't going to do an awful lot, given that you cannot really take more than 1 or 2 torpedoes anyway, as it is. And getting your engine shot off or your rudder is really an issue in a destroyer, especially if your repair kit's on cooldown. So if your damage control kit's on cooldown. So that's a skill that I tend to actually in destroyer switch over more and more to. We don't have a defensive AA, so there's no use on taking battlefield support. In return, Sims brings us the Torpedo Alert Plus, which is sort of a poor man's perma sonar, because it gives us a 20% detection range on enemy torpedoes, makes it easier to see them early on. Preheating is a no-brainer, and on Sims we get the Sixth Sense, which is generally quite useful knowing that other people are targeting you. Otherwise, given again that you don't have the defensive AA skill, you'd usually be taking Victorious Charge here. Now, you do have the choice here to go with the Fire Supremacy or to go with Daredevil. Fire Supremacy gives you the additional precise aim, but honestly, I've tried it, but I don't really feel that it makes an awful lot of a difference. And instead, going for the Daredevil for an all-round destroyer that isn't specialized feels like a more useful choice to me. In Sims, it's not a question because he actually gets the improved skill here. Exploit Weakness for additional damage to things that are flooding or on fire. And interestingly enough, the Marksman skill, which we wouldn't be choosing for a destroyer usually. So normally you'd have the fully prepared. It's not a massive loss. So if you're having a destroyer captain that you're just going to weekend on the USS Mayo, then it doesn't really make that much of a difference if you don't have the Marksman skill. The Mistweaver obviously being a big one for the smoke screens. Engine overload is a no-brainer. Honor Seeker is kind of nice, especially if you can get something like a first strike. It just basically boosts your damage output a little bit. The compartment maintenance otherwise would be a choice as well. APCS, if you really need to do the damage, if you need to do maximum damage on a ship that's on low health, having the APCS is a bit better. IFAG on a 5-inch guns isn't going to do anything, so having the option to get more reliable full penetrations is it's a neat one. But obviously the Giant Hunter is a good one from Sims as well. Now, when it comes to talents, you sort of have 2 trees where you can work. You can either go the first one, the red tree, or you can go on the green one. The interesting skills here, or somewhat interesting skills here on the green one, especially the specialist. So if you can manage to get the first strike, which isn't guaranteed, but if you can manage to get the first strike in, for example, by taking out an enemy destroyer early on, which is something you could potentially do, then it'll give you a +1 usage on all skills. So you get an extra smoke, you get an extra engine boost, and an extra precise aim. The extra precise aim, not the end of the world, but having an extra smoke would be huge here. And in the last one, you're obviously not going to do any citadel hits, but if you cause enough damage here, you can either get yourself torpedo reload and main battery reload, or if you could manage a double strike, which is exceedingly rare, you could get the main battery reload further up. So it'd probably be this combo here for me. That said, the 4% main battery traverse speed is nice, but if you go over to the red tree, if spotting 3 enemies is reasonably easy, and it gives you 3% extra range. So this is definitely the superior skill here, and it allows you to go in the second level for just for any kill, get 3% speed and turning speed out of it, which really just makes you more effective, and it compounds really with everything else. And in the last one, if you can land 10 torpedoes, you get a -6% torpedo reload time, which isn't going to give you an additional torpedo strike for the round, but it might make your torpedoes ready when you need them, rather than not having to wait an additional couple of seconds if you can manage to get that. So all in all, a fairly decent set what you can get for a destroyer here. Lastly, because it's a premium, you get some free stuff. So play 10 battles, obviously, and if you can do 70,000 points of damage, which is trivial, you get 4 steel for that, which you can spend in the shipyard. So usually on premiums and the black ships and these sort of things, the resources are basically free from the missions. So even if you just get it for that, consider it's for free steel or something. All right, I think we've covered pretty much everything. So let's get into 2 games with the USS Mayo and see if that thing has any right to be here, really, as a, well, very slightly modified USS Benson. In the first round, with the more conventional setup, we are facing, and I have been struggling to get games that weren't completely full of bots recently, especially on the Asian server. It's been extremely quiet. We are facing Shokaku, Roma, Cleveland, Akatsuki, and Kagero on Sleeping Giant in a domination match. Now, in a Benson, if there was a Shokaku outside, you'd still not just go plane hunting. But you do have some capabilities with the defensive AA, and you could theoretically use the smoke screen, although you only get 2 smoke screens. You'd have some capability at least, but generally it'd be better to, combine it with friendly AA. So with a carrier in play, I'm going to play a bit different. So there's an Almirante Grau. That thing probably has some AA. So I'm not rushing full speed engine boost ahead into C-Cup, but I'm waiting to see where the carrier is going. And the enemy carrier is going straight down to B, so he's not scouting the flanks. So let's get back up to full speed. And a friendly carrier is scouting around C, so I don't have to rush into there, because the carrier is going to tell me what's coming. Okay, there are 2 destroyers out there over to the armor piercing. There could be a bot, but I would like to see. Okay, it's the Kagero, and the carrier takes the Kagero under fire. Kagero has set himself against an island, so he's taking a lot of damage here. And hello, Mr. Kagero. Let's spoil your fun even more. I'm switching back to the high explosive, because he has this damage controlled, and his damage. If I can set a permafire or 2, that would be good. But there is also Roma out there, and that means I do have to be somewhat careful. I have taken. Yep, there is still another destroyer on my right, and I haven't looked what it is, if it's a bot or not. It is a bot. Okay, so I can leave that to the Almirante Grau. And the Kagero has actually gotten out of there on account of running away. Just because it's a bot means you can't actually ignore it, unfortunately. So hopefully the Almirante Grau can take that thing out sooner rather than later while I'm distracting the Roma. Because obviously bot destroyers also can launch torpedoes. He isn't focusing me right now, but we do need to get that bot out of the way, please, because he'll also keep me spotted. Okay, Roma is reversing. Let's drop one torpedo on Roma. Let's see what he does, and then we're going after the cargo again. He is in a smoke, which means he might have, and there goes the fire. But by now his Damacon should be off cooldown again, and yes, he has damage control, and as he should. But the carrier is taking him on, and has managed to get the dive bombers on target, and has got the torpedo bombers out. So that cargo is toast. And that means we can go into the center cup, because there are two of our friendly ships already over at sea. Carrier is going after me, but has dropped too close. So in a Benson, I'd have been able to do something here. There is a Cleveland out there, however. So Cleveland doesn't want to come here because I think there was an Amagi behind me, but the Amagi coming under concentrated carrier attack and under HE spam from the Cleveland is not going to want to do anything. I don't want to poke out because there's a Cleveland out there and I know what these things can do. There's also a full health Akatsuki out there. So for now we are relegated to doing some HE spam. We can use the precise aim, and yep, there comes some Akatsuki torpedoes. Set some fires, and Akatsuki might have another one, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here, given that he's sailing away, that he's not launching. I do have to keep that island between myself and Cleveland, however, because I definitely do not wish to be coming out of Cleveland, in front of Cleveland. So one torpedo on the Akatsuki in case he decides to reverse. Yeah, there comes the torpedo spread, and I'm smoking up here. I'm not sure if the planes are going after me, but I do not wish to be, given that I'm right next to an island, I do not wish to be smacked by these torpedo bombers. So I'm using the smoke here for defense. Akatsuki has gone around the island, but we are controlling. I'm just going for cap control here. We're equal on kills, but we're holding 2-to-1 capture circles. So if I can keep that Akatsuki busy. Hello, Mr. Akatsuki. He's probably reloaded. These things reload reasonably quickly, and he is going in super aggressively. So he is going to launch. That's why I'm already going to have to go bow in. And again, I can't really go chase after him because there's a Cleveland lurking at the other side of this island. So I'm going to have to dodge those torpedoes and then keep an eye on where the Cleveland went. Okay, Cleveland's coming around the other side, and so is the bot Amagi there. So let's drop some torpedoes in the gap while taking shot. Oh, someone shot my other torpedo launcher off. Oh well. And then we need to come on, turn. Ow, yeah, that was Cleveland. Okay, Damacon that, get the engine boost up and get the heck out of here. Okay, we've got 3 torpedoes on something, and now we're in, again, a knife fight with the Akatsuki, which means the Akatsuki is going to launch at us. Yes, he did. Which means, again, I'm going to have to go bow into things, and I can't easily get all my guns on target unless the Akatsuki decides to show me his rear, in which case he doesn't have angles to launch his torpedoes. So let's get the Akatsuki killed, and then take a look at what's still out there. Now we are down to 1 capture circle, but because that Cleveland's chased me out of it. But friendly carrier has taken out I think one of the bots there. So now we should be, and yes, I am spotted by the Cleveland. I've got 1 torpedo launcher ready, and I have to stay bow in. Cleveland's obviously running his radar, so there's no point in smoking even up next to a Cleveland. All you can do is distract him and hope that he runs into the torpedoes. Unfortunately, he has slowed down, which means, set me on fire. But the carrier is coming in to save the day. And even though that was a Cleveland, it is now a dead Cleveland, which means there's only the Shokaku left, which is on very little health, and we have done the battle. Typical game in an American destroyer. You're a jack of all trades. You make yourself useful, you try to contest capture circles, you try to chase away enemy destroyers, and whenever you see an American light cruiser, you run like heck because your smokescreen, for sure, is not going to save you. And that's sort of the curse, right, of the American destroyer line at this point, because they've sort of one of their big gimmicks was the good smokescreen, but it's kind of been power crept a little bit. Still, we actually came out on top of the team just due to the team score. The second round, again, is a carrier battle, and it's a 4v4 where we are facing Rhone, an August von Parseval, a Bismarck, and an enemy Benson. We have an August von Parseval on our own team, so that should equal things somewhat. German carriers generally, they don't have high explosive bombs, but if they're armor-piercing bombs to full penetrations, they can be really nasty as well. You don't get the set on fire problem so much, but they can do a fair amount of damage, and obviously torpedo planes too. The planes are not the strongest, but I don't also have much AA, so something we'll need to be aware of. And yes, you cannot easily just rush one of these things, because they have a lot of auto-secondaries. Oh, same story as before. Let's see where the carrier is going. And we were heading carefully towards A Cup, just to see if the enemy carrier is scouting. Friendly carrier is not doing something so far, so let's see if that changes or if that's just an AFK carrier. And yep, there come the dive bombers, and they are scouting. They are scouting this side. So it's not so much just the attack from the carrier that's your problem, right? It's part of it is also the fact that you get spotted for the enemy team. So you definitely want to be outside of shooting range, or at least of effective shooting range of everything that comes in. So you only have to deal with the incoming carrier strike that you need to evade. It looks like the carrier is happy to just keep us scouted, and not actually to go after it. Friendly carrier appears AFK, doesn't do anything, so no scout on our side, which means given that the capture circle is, and there come the torpedo bombers. Okay, slow down. Yep, he's going after me. That was not a great strike, so it was too far away, so I was able to dodge most of that. But there is a bot Yugomo coming around the corner. And there is also a bot Prinz Ruprecht and the Rhone. Out of all of these, the Rhone is my biggest problem. So let's get some torpedoes away and see if anybody runs into them. And then we're going to get the heck out of here. No use using a smokescreen. Bots just negate your smokescreens. And the Yugomo takes 2 torpedoes, is flooding. That should be the end of the Yugomo. Rhone is obviously shooting at me. And the carrier is keeping me spotted with the fighters. Oh no, the friendly carrier isn't AFK. He's actually sailing around. He just hasn't figured out that that his ship has actual planes. He thinks he's in a cruiser. Yeah, so Rhone is a problem, a big one, because that thing is absolutely nasty. And Prinz Ruprecht, of course, as well, even though it's just a bot. Rhone is having trouble getting shots on target. So now I should be far enough away that I can use the smoke screen, but of course the bot's bugs are just negating my smoke screen. So despite the fact that I have a smoke screen up, I'm still detected, and there we go. Now I'm undetected. I think the bot's not targeting me, something like that. But this has, at least the Rhone is now going after the friendly carrier, and there is the bot Prinz Ruprecht. So we're gonna not actually lock onto the bot, and with the torpedoes. And then I am going to see if I can save myself a carrier. Meanwhile, the Udeloy has taken out the enemy Benson. Well done, Udeloy. We haven't done much in terms of cap control yet at this point, but we are holding one of the capture circles. And while I'm chasing after the Rhone is more interested in going for the carrier. Now the Prinz Ruprecht bot is dead, which is good. So that's one down. And the enemy team is still holding A, but they're about to lose C. And we are at this point 3 kills ahead. So I think even though the Rhone is actually going to kill the friendly carrier, given that the friendly carrier hasn't actually done anything useful, the Rhone would probably have been better off going for the cap control and pushing the destroyers out, because there's still 3 of us out here. There's still the Udeloy and myself and whatever that bot is that is circling around the edge of the map there. So given the strategic situation that the Rhone is completely out of place at this point, I can go after the battleship over in A Cup. And as we have just verified, it is a Bismarck. So Bismarck obviously doesn't see me, and he doesn't know that these torpedoes are coming. So he is accelerating out of the turn, so you got to lead a little bit more than the guideline, and then we're going to wait until the torpedoes are close enough that he's not going to dodge them, and then start shooting at him. from the safety of the island. There we go. Now we're spotted. He's not even looking my way, so torpedoes incoming, and he damage conned, but of course damage con's active, so no flood here, but that has cost him about half his hit points. And now we can see if we can get a permafire set. That would be nice. It is a German battleship. He's not looking at me, but I'm still going to use the smoke screen here because the Rhone is over at the map edge. Enemy August von Parseval has taken out our friendly Schimanto, and I just don't want to be spotted next to a Bismarck, because while he can't get his main guns around quickly, he can definitely get his secondaries active on the other side. But Bismarck's dead. Carrier has noticed that Bismarck had his Damacon on cooldown. That just leaves the Rhone out here, and then the enemy Parseval. But that is still a German carrier, and he is in a close range engagement with a battleship over there. So Rhone is on double permafire, and Udeloy has taken out the Rhone. Well done, Udeloy. The Jutland, the bot has been absolutely useless, honestly, but he's still alive. At the carrier, so is the enemy carrier. So we've got one battleship left, the Jutland, the Udeloy, and myself. So I'm trying to say good work here, and it's not easy on a phone screen, but the Udeloy is coming under air attack and has been taken out by the August von Parseval. While I think the battleship on our team might be a bot. So I'm going to go and secure the capture circle, because this game isn't over yet. With the Jutland, with the Jutland just being a bot, it means the carrier can probably take it out in one strike package, and he is going for B Cup. And yes, he has sunk the bot Zeton over there. So the enemy carrier is fighting back. Now we are holding all three capture circles, but there's still 50 seconds left. It is unlikely that he's going to be able to kill both myself and the Jutland, but I'm honestly just I'm gonna take the win here. I'm not gonna rush after a carrier, get into secondary range, and then give the bot a last hope or something. And the carrier is coming after me. No, he's not. Yeah, no, maybe. Okay, he is going into B Cup, as he has to. He needs to basically kill the Jutland with an airstrike and with his secondaries, but I'm not sure if that was enough. He didn't have the dive bombers ready, and bot Jutland was pretty much on full hit points. So he has evaded the torpedoes. There comes the airstrike, not going after the Jutland, because even if he killed the Jutland, it wouldn't have been enough, because we have been holding the capture circles. Mainly because Rhone hasn't done anything cruiser, really, but has gone after the AFK carrier on our side. And that is the end of the game. So, the USS Mayo, basically it's a Benson, right? For all intents and purposes, it's a Benson. And the Benson is not the best Tier 8 destroyer out there. And to be honest, the Mayo isn't either. It's a decent all-rounder, right? It's not going to give you amazing results. I personally don't see the point of the precise aiming skill very much. It might help you a little bit if you need to do things like weak spot target armor piercing on battleships or something like that. But generally, in most cases, you're going to be too busy having your head on a swivel anyway, because, you're in a destroyer and you're going to be targeted. I think the idea was to go for like a long-range HE spam sort of thing, but that's not what American destroyers are. And it really doesn't feel that useful. Now, neither did the defensive AA, but in general, it hasn't been a massive upgrade over the existing Benson, and as such falls into, for me at least, into the same powercrept bucket. So this is not a ship that you need to have. You can get yourself a Benson for free if you want to. If it ends up to be the ship in the Blitz Pass, and you end up to getting the Blitz Pass anyway because you want the resources, you take it for the 4 extra steel. It's not a bad ship. It's just also not a good ship, just because the line has been somewhat power crept. It's an okay ship, and you can do decent things with it. But that's it. That's the USS Mayo, and hopefully at some point we'll get a little bit of a buff on the American destroyers. I would love to see a better def AA and an additional, either an upgrade on the smoke screen or an additional charge on the smoke screens. That would be, I think, something that would make them more viable again. in their sort of intended all-rounder support role. As it stands, yeah, a bit power crept, but not a bad ship, not a great ship. Can have it, and if you end up getting it, then you know what you're in for. And that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.